Hi, my name's Caroline Bretherton, and this is Get Cooking. I've taught you various things over the weeks. We're reaching the last class today, and we've done some baking, but I'm aware that some of you might not have the kind of ingredients you need to bake. So we're doing a no-bake energy bite. So it's kind of healthy, it's kind of sweet, it's kind of sticky. It's very easy to make. You can keep them in the fridge for about a week. You really don't want to eat more than one at a time because they're quite rich. They keep really well. They're really simple to use. Now, I am using a food processor. I know that you may not have this at home or in the dorm room, but if you don't, you can just chop the ingredients finely with a knife and they can be chunkier. It doesn't really matter. So I'm doing a very basic one here, and you can change it and add things that you might like. If you're going to change or add stuff to it, if you want to add some dried fruit, things like cranberries or apricots and stuff like that, just make sure that the ingredients you use, A, are pretty dry, so they're not got a lot of natural moisture in them, because otherwise they'll deteriorate the kind of texture of the energy bites after a couple of days. And make sure they kind of complement the flavors that you have. So I have half a cup of rolled oats here. I'm just going to pop them in like that. And half a cup of unsweetened shredded coconut. Do not buy the sweetened one, really. It's tooth-rottingly sweet at this point. I'm going to give this a little pulse. What I want to do is break it up slightly, but it doesn't want to be overworked at this point because I'm going to work it again. So just a few times like this. Looking down, I can see when it starts to break up, but I don't want to get it over-broken. That looks fine. I don't want it too kind of fine because it'll taste too sandy. You want it kind of chunky. Right, now we're going to put the rest of the ingredients in. I've said in the recipe, and there are links to the recipes on YouTube, I've said in the recipe 2 to 3 tablespoons of both peanut butter or almond butter. I'm using almond butter because I prefer it, and 2 to 3 tablespoons of honey. So I'm starting with 2 of each, and if the mixture doesn't bind together properly, then you go in with 1/3 of each to try and get it a bit more kind of gluey. It really depends on so many things, like how old the oats are, how kind of desiccated the coconut is. It's all to do with moisture content. So be prepared to be a little bit flexible. Right, so I'm starting with 2 tablespoons. Now, this is funny, almond butter, and you'll get the same if you buy that kind of natural peanut butter. It separates. I don't know if you can see. It has this kind of oiliness. That's almond oil, basically, that's kind of risen to the surface. Now, you don't want that, but it kind of slops everywhere. So try and get a spoon out without taking the oil and pop it in, and take another spoon like that. I mean, it doesn't matter if the oil gets in, but you don't want too much of it because it'll change the texture of the finished product, which you don't want. Okay, so we'll start with 2 of those, and I'm going to eyeball the honey. You could measure the honey with a tablespoon measurer. If you do, a good tip is to run it under hot water first, and then the honey tips out in one solid kind of bloop like that and leaves it clean so that you can then use it again. It doesn't stick to the inside, but I just kind of measure it by eye because I've been doing this a long time. So that's 1, that's 2 in my book. So more or less. A little pinch of salt. I like the salt in this. It kind of counteracts the sweetness of the coconut and chocolate. And I'm going to put in here a couple of tablespoons. I've used a really high quality dark chocolate. This is like a kind of 72% chocolate chip, which will give a nice it'll be strong and chocolatey, but not too sweet. And finally, I have a tablespoon of chia seeds, or chia seeds. I'm never quite sure what to call them. I'll call them chia seeds. Pop those in there as well. And then I'm going to pulse it again until it comes together in a paste. So, having a look. No, I can hear it doesn't sound happy, right? It sounds like it needs more liquid in it. So we're going in with our 3rd one. I'm going to go with my 3rd one of almond butter first because I'd rather have it less sweet. So 1 more spoon of the almond butter. Pop that in like that. I'm not going to add a 3rd spoon of the honey yet because, again, that's another sweetener, so I'd rather have them less sweet, but I do want the right texture. So I think that might be, it's really hard to tell. I think I'm going to have to put my hand in here. So it's really trying to avoid doing this because I'm not the world's best at opening this machine. So I'm going to take it out. I don't know if you can see that very easily. It's very crumbly, which is quite normal because what's going to happen is I'm going to see if I can press it together. And if it presses together easily, it's done. But that, can you see that? It's still kind of falling slightly. So I'm going to put my final tablespoon of honey in there as well. Go full fat, full sugar energy bites. Not so good for you with this, but very delicious all the same. You could also do this with maple syrup or agave instead of honey. So I put my third one in there. Actually managed to put that lid on, which I'm very excited by, because there's been a number of times I haven't been able to do that. Okay. That rattle you're hearing is the chocolate chips. They're not broken up yet properly, so I can hear that they're more broken up, and I can see it starting to clump together. So let us remove it from this machine and take it out like this. So always take the blade out first. Do not leave the blade in when you're putting your hands in or anything in, because you don't want to cut yourself. Right, I can see this is starting to clump together nicely now. So I am going to go in with my hands. They are clean. I'm the only person eating these. You could do this with those plasticky gloves. We do them with those at school here, but I don't have any, and I don't like wearing them at home. And do you see, as I start to bring it together like that, you actually work the oils up, and I can feel it getting stickier as I do this. Once you've done that enough times, give it a little roll. When I make these little balls, they always get a little dome on either side. I think it's something about how I roll them in my palms. So if it looks a bit more like a spinning top, just go around afterwards and pat it. Now, I like them about that big, so small walnut size. It might be, you could make them bigger, but to be honest, it's quite a lot. So it's better to have fewer and make them last longer. And then just go through the whole lot like this, rolling them up. And when they're all done, I'm going to pop them either in the freezer for a little bit. In the class, we put them in the freezer first because we don't have a lot of time and everyone wants to take them home. Or if you just want to pop them in your fridge, they're going to chill. It'll take at least 4 hours for them to chill down. But if you just put them in a Tupperware container or an old takeout box with a lid, then you can keep them in your fridge for a week. Okay, I've managed to get 10 out of these. You'll get 8 to 10 depending on how big you roll them. Now, these are great to eat in a couple of hours. They need at least 2 to 4 hours in the fridge. Once they're cooled down, they'll firm up slightly, and then you can eat them over the course of the week or all today.